Welcome back to the Cigar Cypher Podcast, brought to you by Buenos Dias Media Production, where smoke meets strategy and conversations burn slow. I'm your host, David, here to light another episode of wisdom, wit, and the sweet aroma of success.
This podcast is a Buenos Dias Media production.
Welcome to the Cigar Cypher, the podcast where the rich aroma of tobacco meets the spark of conversation. Let us guide you through the captivating world of cigars. Whether you're a seasoned aficionado or just curious about your first puff, this is your invitation to join the Cypher.
Make way for the new kings of cigar media, the Cigar Cypher.
We're here today at Buenos Dias Media Studio, and today we're going to talk about 15 myths. Not just any myths, but 15 cigar myths that, fact or fiction, but we're here to basically bust these myths and prove, well, not necessarily prove, but just say how they are not true. Because when we were all first-time smokers at one time. And when we're newbies in the cigar world or cigar culture, we tend to believe everything we're told. But don't go away, because we're about to, run by, again, only 15 of them. And we're going to tell you what people believe and why it's not true. This is for every aficionado, business thinker, and curious mind who's ever heard someone say, "You gotta cut your cigar like this," or "Cigars don't go bad," or my favorite, "The longer the ash, the better the cigar." So we're putting those myths today in the ashtray. Don't go away.
The views and opinions expressed by the host, guest, and/or participants of this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Buenos Dias Media LLC, its associates, partners, and show sponsors. The content is intended for entertainment purposes and should not be construed as professional advice. Listener discretion is advised.
But before we start busting myths, let's get into our cigar highlight of the day. And today's Cigars Highlight segment is brought to you by The Gentleman's Torch. You can go now to thegentleman'storch.com and join or start by joining their email list to be the first one to be notified. Every time something's out of stock or if something's new, you'll be the first to know once you join that email list. So go to thegentleman'storch.com. You can also find them on Instagram and Facebook at The Gentleman's Torch. So let's jump right into this cigar highlight of the day. Today's feature smoke is the Arturo Fuente Hemingway short story. It's size 4 by 49, a perfect shape, short, stout, and elegant. With a Cameroon wrapper, a binder and filler from the Dominican Republic, blended and hand-rolled at the legendary Tabacalera A Fuente y Cia in the Dominican Republic. The flavor notes that can be found are toasted cedar, a touch of cream, a sprinkle of baking spice, and that subtle sweetness Fuente fans live for. The burn time is about 30 to 40 minutes, perfect for a midday break or your drive to the next business meeting. The MSRP on this stick is about $7.50 or about $165 for a box of 25. That brings the single price down to about $6.60 per cigar. If you haven't had one, this little guy teaches a big lesson. Just because something's small doesn't mean it can't command the room. So if you're enjoying a cigar right now, I say salute. All right, so let's start with some of these myths and what they're about. And let's start with myth number 1. The longer the ash, the better the cigar. The typical Instagram or TikTok myth. Folks out here, balancing ash like, it's a Jenga game. But here's the truth. A long ash can mean a good construction, but it doesn't mean that the cigar is any better. I have found that what matters more is how the draw feels, how even it burns, and of course the flavor consistency. Some people just want to sound extra knowledgeable about these things. And, it's like they start adding shit that really just doesn't make sense to me. It's like in business. It's not how long you've been at it, but how consistently you perform. First of all, when it comes to cigars, to a certain point, it's kind of subjective, like art or music. I've had plenty of cigars that when I try them, right, then I light them up and smoke them, I find them very strong. And, obviously, I'm not a fan of the whole peppery taste, but, friends of mine smoke them and they think it's amazing, or they find them even light. And just like they've smoked cigars that they find light and I find them good, or cigars that I find great and they find them mega light. So to judge a cigar by how long it holds the ashes, I don't know. I think it's kind of unfair to all the work that's being put into it, and to the cigar, and to the brand, to the manufacturers. I just think it's kind of crazy. And myth number 2 is you have to store the cigars at 70% or 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 70% humidity. I think that the 70-70 rule is more of a guideline and not a gospel. In reality, cigars can thrive between 62 and 68% humidity, obviously depending on your climate and your preference. Cooler temps are also good as long as it's stable. You don't want your cigars to be all sweaty. You want them seasoned, kind of like your mindset. Stay adaptable, but consistent. When it comes to cigar storing, my 2 fears are drying up and cracking, or being over-humidified and developing mold. Besides that, at least for me, anything in between works fine. Myth number 3 is Cuban cigars are the best. Listen, Cubans have history, but so do Dominicans, and so does Honduras, and so does Ecuador, and so does Nicaragua. Everyone seems to have been innovating like crazy. So to just say that Cuban cigars are the best, I think it's lack of knowledge, basically. It's not where it's from, unless we're talking about the soil itself. Different countries have different minerals in the soil, and therefore the tobacco can taste different. But it's important to understand that it's also about who rolls it and how it's blended. Cuban cigars can be amazing, but so can a Padron, a My Father, or an Oliva cigar. That's like assuming that all entrepreneurs from Silicon Valley are geniuses. Geography doesn't guarantee greatness. Effort does. Innovation does. And consistency. Myth number 4 is that you should inhale cigars like you inhale cigarettes. This is one that mainly people that aren't in the cigar culture think this way. They lump cigars in together with cigarettes as, tobacco products, and, the law seems to do the same thing, but they lump cigars in with cigarettes and vapes and weed and hookah, and sometimes even, drugs that they smoke. As long as it includes smoking, to them, smoking is smoking and it's all the same thing. But no, please don't do that. Do not inhale your cigar smoke unless you want to meet your ancestors early. Cigars are meant to be enjoyed. They're meant to be tasted, not inhaled. You roll the cigar around, right? And you savor the flavors. Then you let it go. Just like negativity. Do not hold onto it. Myth number 5 is cigars never expire. My friends, cigars are organic. They dry out, they lose oils, and the flavors tend to kind of die out a bit with time. If you treat your cigars well, they'll age beautifully, sort of like a Bordeaux. But neglect them, and you're just holding on to dry leaves and regret. Cigars need to be cared for. Think of it as art. Because they are art, and they have to be taken care for, and they have to be preserved, correctly. Myth number 6 is price equals quality. I gotta give this one a big no. Some $8 cigars hit harder than $40 limited editions. Sometimes you're paying for rarity or branding or packaging. In all honesty, you just have to learn what you like and find what you truly enjoy without focusing on the bands and brands. The best investment in life and cigars is self-awareness. I have tried cigars that have cost me over $25. And when I've smoked them, I've found that I didn't really care for them. But I've also had cigars that have cost me from $3 to $5. And to be honest, they were surprisingly great. So no, just because it's pricey, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're great quality, or even if they're great quality, doesn't mean you'll like them or they're good to you. So again, you just gotta find what you like. You gotta try tons of different cigars. Myth number 7, lighters don't matter. Actually, my friends, they do. Avoid cheap butane or torching your cigar unevenly. A clean torch or a soft flame enhances the ritual. It's not just about fire. It's about respect. Like in any craft, the details make the difference. You don't want to taste chemicals. You want to enjoy the flavors, the tobacco itself, without anything altering that taste. So yes, lighters do matter. But does that mean that using the wrong lighter will ruin your entire experience? I mean, I don't think so. But at least it might alter your beginning experience, and that might cause you to deter from cigars altogether. So all right, folks, let's take a minute to relight, sip something smooth, and we'll continue with some more myths, as well as some business and life talk when we come back. You are listening to the Cigar Cypher Podcast, a Buenos Dias media production.
Looking to connect with like-minded men who share your drive for success and passion for the finer things in life? Welcome to the Apex Gentlemen's Guild, a private members club for men who value ambition, camaraderie, giving back, and personal growth. For a limited time while we're fully remote, you can join the guild for free. Gain access to tons of motivational content, exclusive events, insightful discussions, and a network of high-performance individuals. Don't miss this chance to elevate your social circle. Request to join today at facebook.com/groups/Apex Gentlemen's Guild, or give us a like at facebook.com/Apex Gentlemen's Guild. The Apex Gentlemen's Guild, excellence forged in unity.
And we are back. The Cigar Cypher Podcast, a Buenos Dias media production. And today we're talking about 15 cigar myths. And we're talking about, what people believe and why it's not true. And we'll continue here with myth number 8. And it's that a darker cigar is always stronger. People believe that the dark wrapper automatically means that the cigar will be bold or harsh or full-bodied. And that is not all true. Dark wrappers, or Maduro Oscuro, get their color from longer fermentation and aging, which often brings out sweetness and richness, not necessarily strength. The true strength in cigars comes from filler tobaccos, not the wrapper alone, which is what you see on the outside. Some dark cigars are mild, creamy, just like some lighter cigars can be surprisingly strong. Myth number 9 is that a cigar that burns unevenly is poorly made. People believe that an uneven burn, canoeing or tunneling, means bad craftsmanship and low quality. Now granted, in some cases this can mean low quality and poor construction, but that's not always the case. Even the best made cigars can burn unevenly at times due to environmental factors, humidity levels, wind, or improper lighting. Lighting too quickly or unevenly, or storing cigars at the wrong humidity, too moist, too dry, can cause irregular burns in the cigar. But don't fret, because usually, a few touch-ups with a lighter usually can restore balance. Not always, but usually. Myth number 10 is longer cigars are stronger cigars. Some people believe that the length of a cigar determines its strength. Longer equals stronger. But the truth is that length basically determines how long you'll be smoking, not intensity. If anything, in my opinion, I find that smaller cigars usually pack a punch. It's like all that flavor is concentrated in that small cigar. I've had Churchills that are great. And then I've bought the same cigar, maybe in a smaller version, not even a Robusto. An example, when you buy a tin of these small cigars, something from maybe a 15-minute quick smoke. those usually are stronger. A cigar's strength comes from its blend and tobacco composition. The ring gauge or thickness and ratio of filler to wrapper matter more than length. That's why, like I said, shorter cigars often feel stronger because the smoke is more concentrated and it burns hotter. Myth number 11 is that cigars are only for special occasions. Some people believe that cigars should only be lit at weddings, births, or celebrations. And this is one that prior to becoming a cigar smoker myself, this was one of my beliefs. The other one was that, cigars are only for people of high status. Until I understood the rituals of seeking calm moments, relaxation, and camaraderie. But while cigars have been long tied to momentous events, many aficionados see them as part of daily or weekly ritual, a way to unwind, think, and enjoy time. Cigar culture is about presence and pleasure, not exclusivity. Treating cigars like rare trophies limits your experience. Myth number 12. Cutting too much of the cap ruins the cigar. Some people believe that if you cut even slightly too much off the cap, the closed end, the cigar is ruined beyond repair. But the truth is that the cap holds the wrapper together. But you only need to cut enough to open the draw. That's it, about 1/8 of an inch. Cutting below the shoulder can cause unraveling, yet the cigar isn't automatically destroyed. If it unravels slightly, a bit of moisture in the cigar, you do one of these things, or cigar glue, you can touch up and you can fix it. Yes, you seem like a newbie when you cut a cigar too much, but if it happens, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll miss out on the smoking experience. Myth number 13 is you should store cigars in the fridge if you don't have a humidor. Some people believe that the fridge is a good temporary substitute for humidity control. Truth is, refrigerators are too dry. They remove moisture from cigars, drying out the wrapper and altering the flavor. Instead, use an airtight plastic container or a jar with a, Boveda humidity pack in it. 65 to 70%, simple DIY Tupperware. And it keeps cigars fresh without refrigeration damage. Myth number 14 is ashing often keeps a cigar burning better. Some people believe that frequently tapping off ashes improves the draw and burn consistency. But the truth is that a stable ash, about 1 inch long, insulates the cherry, keeps the burn cooler, and enhances even combustion. Constantly flicking the ash exposes the ember to oxygen, causing hotter, uneven burning and harsher taste. Let the ash fall naturally when it's ready, or at least if you know that the next time you pick up your cigar, you might end up, dropping the ashes all over yourself and making a mess, then tap it before that happens. That happened to me. It's happened to me plenty of times. Sometimes I let the ash, I'm not one of those that's holding onto the cigar like this because I'm trying to see how long I have the ash. But if I have it there and I see that, when I pick this up, I'm deep in conversation, and the next time I pick it up, it's going to fall, tap it, okay? Okay, myth number 15 is the tighter the draw, the better the cigar. This is the first time I hear this one. Some people believe that a firm, resistant draw signals high quality construction. Truth is that a good draw has light resistance, enough to slow the smoke, but not enough to strain. It's like when you order a milkshake in Burger King, you gotta try to get something out. You don't want that in a cigar. Too tight a draw restricts airflow, leading to uneven burns and muted flavors. A well-constructed cigar should allow a smooth, steady pull with minimal effort. And another myth, this is a bonus one that I believed, and yes, now that I think of it, I was extremely naive to believe that everyone submerged in the cigar culture and business is an honest and classy individual. It's truly what I believed. If you're in the cigar business, or not even in the business, you're in the cigar culture, you were a gentleman or a gentlewoman, right? A lady, person that's classy, a person, an upstanding person, right? I truly believe that scammers and swindlers were involved in every other business, but not the cigar business. And how did I find this out? Well, I was looking for a cigar. I had found out that they had made this Sons of Anarchy cigar. It was around the Christmas time, and I was looking for it, and apparently every store I checked didn't have it. And when I checked online, it just kept popping up. It was discontinued and blah, blah, blah. So in one of these Facebook groups, I see a person smoking one. And I asked, hey, where did you get it? And he says, oh, yeah, I bought it from my buddy, so-and-so. And he sends me, forwards me the name of the person so I can contact them, which I do. I contact them. Hey, do you have so-and-so cigar, the SOA cigar? Sure, I have them. For $100, the box. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I wanted to buy, I knew my friend was a Sons of Anarchy fan. So I wanted to surprise him with a box. So I send the guy the money. It was an issue back and forth. I'm not getting into details with that, but I finally get him the money. Next day, he sends me a confirmation code, right? That he had shipped it, and I'm all excited. And then a few hours later, I think the next day, I get an email. Hey, your cigar box is being held by customs. Mind you, this is in the U.S. It's not like overseas or anything. The guy I think was in Florida. You got to pay an insurance of $250, which will be returned to you upon delivery. If not, we cannot deliver your cigars. And that's when my spidey senses went off, and I was like, I think I have been scammed. So I contact the guy, and he keeps telling me, like, yeah, you should pay it, just send the money. But the way to pay that money was through Zelle, which was weird. So then I started digging deep into the confirmation code he sent me with the website, and I see that it's such a rinky-dink fake website. So I contacted the guy, and I said, well, supposedly, since I'm not paying that money, they're going to return the package to you. So can I have my money back? And automatically that meant I got blocked. So now I could not find this person. I could not talk to this person. And then I decided to do some digging, and I found out that this was a scam that was going on online. And they were preying on cigar smokers like myself, looking for rare cigars. And apparently the person that had recommended was also in on it. And anyway, it developed a totally new perspective that scammers, swindlers, and I guess, snake oil salesmen are in every single type of business. But even when we go through some situations, some negative experiences, cigar culture, if you pay attention, it can teach us many things. Because cigars teach us patience. You can't rush a good burn, or you might ruin the experience. Just like in business, if you force growth too fast, just like when you smoke a cigar, the experience is not the same. Like a cigar that cracks under rush smoking. And here's another lesson: cigars remind us of presence. You can't scroll and truly taste at the same time. You gotta slow down. Focus. You have to be there. You have to be present in the moment. It's not wasted time. It's invested time in mindfulness. This is something that I have learned. So whether you're running a company or just running through life, remember, balance your burn. So before we leave, I want to send a big thanks to our sponsors and to everyone supporting the Cigar Cypher podcast. If you like your brand featured here, a cigar brand, maybe a humidor company, accessories, brand, candles, whiskey, just hit us up at thecigarcypher@gmail.com. And if you've learned something today, or laughed at least once, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and subscribe to our YouTube or Rumble channels at the Cigar Cyphers. You can also find us on Instagram as the Cigar Cypher. Tag us when you're lighting up your next stick. We might feature you on our Instagram story. So until next time, my friends, remember that life is too short for bad cigars and bad energy. Stay sharp, stay smoky, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Cigar Cypher Podcast.